All right, so let's talk about fitting pistons. So the words precision and backyard engine build are never found in the same sentence, for good reason, because precision is the domain of the machinist, the pro engine builder. And you're just some poor schlep trying to hammer your stuff back together again with basic hand tools, fresh rings, bearings, and gaskets, and then crossing your fingers and hoping that it functions the way it's supposed to. But if you take your time, make some careful measurements, and then reassemble the engine, putting the right piston in the right hole, you would be surprised at how good a motor you can build in your backyard with basic hand tools. It takes time and it takes, patience. So what we're talking about here is piston to wall clearance. Now, this is important. It's like the disclaimer for this. Everything that we're going to talk about now in this video is predicated on you reusing the original pistons that came out of your engine. Once you start mixing and matching pistons, it becomes a different thing entirely. But if you've torn your motor apart, you honed it, rings and all of that stuff, you're going to put it back together again, and you're going to do it with the original parts that came out, this is for you. If you're swapping different pistons, that's a whole different animal. So keep that in mind. This is for a backyard rebuild, refresh, reusing the original pistons. They all fit together in that block once, and they will again. You just need to make sure that they go back in the right order, or the right place, the right home for them. So, piston and wall clearance is what we're after. And the wall is going to be the cylinder wall, and it's going to be approximately halfway down where the skirts ride. And the piston, the part of the piston that we're going to be measuring, or we're checking for, is in the skirt. So the skirt is what comes in contact with the cylinder wall. Then knowing what the clearance is good, but it's not essential. Because remember, again, we're putting these pistons back into the same engine they came out of. So the way a machinist would do this is they would take the dial bore gauge and measure the bore, and they would take a micrometer, like this one, and they would measure the piston at its widest point, and we're going to get into that. You subtract one number from the other, and that's your piston and wall clearance. Now, the tools that it takes to do this right, the dial bore gauge and a micrometer big enough to measure pistons, the cost of these things have come way down in recent years, thanks to our buddies over there at Teriyaki Tool Company. So you can buy those tools for, I don't know, 100, 125 bucks, take a little time to learn how to use them, and you're ahead of the game. But if you only do this, very seldomly, or this is your first one, and you're just trying to get it back together again, I'm going to show you how to do it with basic hand tools. So, you go back to the concept of precision. I've torn down so many engines from the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and measured as I went along, and you would be amazed at how sloppy these things are, how production assembly line tolerances. They're all over the map. Some of them I'm amazed to even run to begin with. There's a good chance if you follow these steps and you put your engine back together again, it'll actually fit together better than it did when it left the assembly line. Hand assembled engines are different. Assembly line engines, it's a mixed bag. The numbers that you find in the service manuals are exact blueprint specs, but what you actually find when you start measuring the parts, completely different thing. So let's start with the block. Now, I covered this part in the last video when we were talking about honing, but I'm going to cover it again because this is important. It's an important first step. So before you do anything to any of the cylinders, what you want to do is you want to go to each one and you want to clean just the very top, right? So there's the normal ridge, the ring ridge that happens there. Well, you want to clean the area above that, between that and the deck. So you're going to use like a fine emery cloth or Scotch-Brite and some kind of solvent, and you want to get all of the residue, all of the carbon, anything that's on there off. Get down to bare metal. Then you want to take a ring, a good ring, one that isn't like bent or anything like that, and you want to take a measurement here. So we're going to square the ring to the very top of the deck, and we're going to measure the gap. Okay, so this is going to be our control number. That area up there is unaffected by ring wear. So whatever that cylinder was finished to, what it was bored to at the factory, it's still that now. So that's why it's important to know that number. So we're going to measure that gap, and we're going to record it for each cylinder. And you could use a Sharpie and write it right on the deck. Now, after you hone the engine, you're going to take the same measurement, and you're going to do it here at the top, and then you're going to do it about halfway down the bore. So the formula is for every 1/1000th of an inch you take off the cylinder walls, every 1/1000th of an inch you hone it, that gap is going to open by 3/1000ths of an inch. So, talking in round numbers now, if you started at 20/1000ths of an inch gap, and now you check the gap and it's 29/1000ths, you know you honed it 3/1000ths of an inch over. Now, how much can you hone an engine? Well, you could hone it right into the water jackets if you really want to. But between, let's just say about 3/1000ths of an inch is probably about as big as you want to go and like feel good about it. Once you hit like 4/1000ths, 5/1000ths of an inch, now you're in a situation where you're really actually into the next bore size. So if you've got cylinder wall damage that you can't live with, and you have to go more than 3 or maybe 4/1000ths of an inch to clean it up, then you have to make a judgment call. Will this thing seal? You know, it's a couple of minor scratches or blemishes. Will it seal? Or, you know, do you have to go further? Because if you have to go further, at that point you abandon mission and send it to a machine shop. You're going to go to the next size over. So for our purposes here, we're going to be between, like, say, 1 and 4/1000ths of an inch over the bore. And you're going to take your measurement where the skirt lives. You don't care what it is where the rings are, you care about where the skirt lives, which is going to be halfway to 2/3 of the way down the bore, because that's where your piston to wall clearance is measured. So now we're going to record that number. Each cylinder, you're going to record that number so that you're going to know which ones are large, which ones are small. So this one may be 28/1000ths, this one may be 27/1000ths, this one may be 30/1000ths, and so on and so forth. You want to record those measurements. All right. Now, the pistons. So here's what you need to know before you start trying to measure pistons. The only part of the piston that's round is the head of the piston. The rest of it, there's a couple of different shapes involved. So, the head is the only round part, and it's the smallest diameter of the piston. From the bottom of the piston, this is elliptical. So the piston is narrower this way than it is this way. And also, most pistons are barrel shaped. So you're going to go from the smallest diameter down here, or at the top of the piston, and you're going to go kind of like this. It's going to be, I'm exaggerating of course, a bit of a barrel shape. So it's going to come up, it's going to come out, and it's going to taper in again like this. That barrel shape will probably only be about 1/1000th of an inch from your widest point, which is going to be right about here, to where it tapers in at around this part of the skirt. This area right here, when you determine what the widest diameter of this piston is, that's where you're going to make your measurements at. So even if you don't have the rest of the right tools, you should have a good caliper. This is an absolute essential to any type of engine building, any type of car building. So by all means, go and invest in one of these. This is not going to be a precision measurement, but it's going to be close enough for government work, definitely close enough to get you in the ballpark of where you got to be. So I'll show you something I found with these pistons. These are barrel shaped, and we found that out by using our straight edge here against the piston And we found that the fattest area, right, or the widest area is right about here. So you want to talk about production line tolerances or variations. Look at what we found with these two pistons. So we take a caliper and we lay the caliper right here, and now we're going to take a measurement at the fattest part of the skirt, light thumb pressure on the caliper, and this is what we got. Now if we go to this piston and we measure it exactly the same way, resting the caliper in the same place, measuring the same part of the skirt, that's what we got. Same thumb pressure. That's a variation of approximately 2.5 thousandths of an inch. Same pistons. These things came out of the same engine. That's a variation of approximately 2.5 thousandths of an inch between them. Now, when we go to put this together, it's just a simple matter of finding or selecting the right piston to go into the right hole. So the pistons that measure the widest diameter at the skirt, those go into the biggest holes. The ones that measure the narrowest go into the smallest holes. You're taking a step right now that they did take on the assembly line when the machines put this engine together. So you're actually stacking the odds in your favor, assuming you honed it well and you honed it clean and true. But that's an example of what you find production line tolerances, production line slop. Now we have 6 other pistons here, and I guarantee there's going to be more variations between them. And so, like I said, taking your time and making accurate measurements as you go along and hand fitting each piston to each hole, you're a winner. That makes you an engine builder. All right. Now, every time we talk about pistons and skirts and everything else, the subject of knurling comes up. In fact, when we did that video on honing the block, people asked about knurling the pistons. So for those of you who aren't familiar, knurling is the act of impressing metal or pressing into the piston, creating a pattern of imprints into the piston. And when you make that imprint in the piston, it raises the area around the imprint, kind of like a crater, right? You know, the meteor goes in and the outside of the crater comes out. Well, knurling does the same thing. And it's done at the widest part of the piston, and it'll appear like a band, like a pattern that'll be embossed into the skirt of the piston. Now, what that knurling does is it takes up excessive clearance. For our purposes, if you've only honed 2 thousandths, 3 thousandths over, you should be okay. If you've honed into that 4 to 5 thousandths range, then I would say knurling is a good idea, because those raised areas in the knurl will take up that extra slop. They're going to stand up about 1 thousandth, 2 thousandths of an inch off the surface of the piston. Now, here's the thing about knurling. It's not just a repair for a sloppy fit piston. Engine builders like Smokey Eunuch would typically slightly overhone their engines by 1 thousandth or so and then knurl the pistons, because it takes, at high RPM, there's less drag of those high points of the knurl against the cylinder wall than you would have with the slab, with the flat slab slide, the flat slab side of the stock piston skirt. So knurling can actually be a way to make power. There's also coatings. There are Teflon coatings and whatnot, but we're not going to get into that here now because it doesn't really apply to this backyard engine build type of thing. Now, knurling pistons isn't as common today as it used to be. Back when I first started turning wrenches in the late 70s and the early 80s, it was normal. In fact, any real mechanic had his Lyle benchtop piston knurler. You know, you'd fit the piston in there and then work your pattern into it. Back then, it was very common to re-ring an engine for a customer or just swap out a piston. Nobody thought anything of it. Today, it's really not done. And when you get to that point where you've got to open up an engine or, you know, start looking at larger size pistons, people just buy new pistons. It's the way it is today. but any competent machine shop can knurl pistons for you. There's another way to do it. If you want to go full-on Cuban Pakistani mechanic, you could take a punch and a hammer and put a set of indentations with the punch into the skirts of your pistons. But you know what, really, seriously, don't do that. Find somebody who can knurl it for you. So I think that covers pretty much everything as far as hand fitting pistons into a block that you've honed yourself. And once again, this only applies if you haven't gone overboard with the honing, you kept your bores straight and true as you were honing, and you're reusing the original pistons that came out of it. All of these things will work. A little time, a little patience, some accurate measurements, you would be amazed at how well an engine built like this can run. So our next step, I got ahead of myself doing this video now because I still have not cleaned the block or given it its final hone. So I haven't done any of the steps that I'm talking about now yet on that thing, but it'll happen sometime in this week coming up. I've just got a lot of different things going on. So that's it, guys. Yeah, patience. You'll make a good engine, I promise. I'll see you tomorrow.